Hello there, guys. This is World of Tanks. If you haven't played it before, you should definitely give it a go. It's a fantastic game. It's been around for a little over 5 years. I think they had their 5th year anniversary a while ago, a couple of weeks ago or something. I thought I'd do an introductory video instead of jumping straight into a game, just to explain a bit about it, because it is slightly complicated once you delve into the game. So first off, it's a MOBA game, Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. There are a whole lot of tanks in this game, hundreds of tanks, and they're all historically accurate as far as I'm aware, and you can find them all in the tech tree. So this here is the German tech tree, and as you can see, the tanks are split up into different tiers, so tier 1 through to tier 10, and that's basically based on the period in history when that tank was from. So tier 1 are the really early tanks that don't really resemble what we would consider a tank nowadays, but the later tanks are definitely closer to modern day tanks. So for instance, I will have a look at, say, this one, the Mouse. So there you go. That's the Mouse. That's a tier 10 tank. I think that's around the 40s perhaps. I can't check the description, unfortunately, or I can't remember how. So there are 10 different tiers based on historical period, in a way, and the tanks are also divided up into categories, different categories, and each category does a different thing. They have different advantages and disadvantages in battle, and they additionally also play different roles in a battle. So first off, there are tank destroyers. This is a tank destroyer, this one here that I've got, the Jag Panther. It's a tier 7 German tank destroyer. Hits really, really hard, long range, but slow reload. And it's got a good low profile for a tank destroyer, which means that it's going to be more stealthy when you're hiding in bushes or a fallen tree or behind other tanks. So taking cover, and you tend to be better camouflaged, which is useful. Next, there are light tanks. Actually, I'll go with a heavy tank instead. Next, heavy tanks. Yeah, so big hulking brute. Hit hard, tough armor, lots of health, pretty slow. And essentially they are a steel wall. In fact, there's a medal called Steel Wall, which I've gotten several times with heavy tanks. Basically, they soak up all the damage and defend team members. That's basically their purpose. They one-hit kill smaller tanks pretty easily, and their sheer weight can often destroy tanks when they run into them. So really solid. Beastly things. Next, there are medium tanks. This one is a tier 4. Yeah, tier 4. And it's the M3 Lee, so kind of early tank, sort of early. But medium tanks work really well in packs, so a group of medium tanks running around, and they sort of tag team larger tanks, so heavy tanks or critical targets, things like that. They're very good at that, and taking strategic positions. So they're very good for offensive strategies. Really good for that. Next is... here's one. AMX-40, tier 4, light tank. Light tanks are supposed to be fast, really rapid tanks. Scouting tanks is what they're meant to... that's the role they're supposed to fill in a team. So they run across the battlefield, get to the other side, and reveal the enemy tanks, and then relay the enemy positions back to the team. using radio. And often, if their radio is quite short range, then there needs to be, say, a medium tank or a heavy tank in a halfway position to then relay the radio signal through to the other team members. So, very, very fast. They don't hit hard at all, and they're often very, very weak, extremely weak. So a couple of hits from a larger tank and they're gone. Absolutely obliterated. But that's not their main purpose, and they're not meant to take the damage or hit hard. Next is, and also lastly, M37. This is a tier 4 SPG, self-propelled gun or artillery tank, sometimes called Arty in the game chat. The artillery tanks, the SPGs, are very different to the other tanks. So with most of them, tank destroyers, heavies, mediums, lights, when you press shift, or at least it's shift for me, you go into something called sniper mode. And when you go into sniper mode, you zoom in, and you're basically in a first-person view, looking down the barrel of the gun. So you can see pretty much where you're aiming. But with that, you can't see over terrain, you can't see over obstacles, and the guns can't shoot over terrain. So they just shoot flat and straight, although there is a bit of dropping in the over distance because shells are quite heavy. An SPG is very different. When you go into sniper mode, it's a top-down view of the map. So, and the reason for that is that being artillery, the gun actually angles up. So you can shoot over terrain and over obstacles to shell enemy positions from huge distances. And the shells that they use are not standard, normal shells. They're high explosive and high explosive anti-tank. And those shells are huge, and they do a lot of damage if they do hit, and even if they miss and they're nearby, they still do a lot of splash damage, which no other tank has. You can use high explosive shells with other tanks, but they don't have that colossal splash damage that an SPG will get. But the SPGs are really slow, very vulnerable, very weak, almost no armor on the back. I think the only exception is the French artillery tanks. Some of them are quite fast, surprisingly. I've been in a couple of games and there's just this artillery tank just whizzing past, and I go, what was that? And I get a closer look and it was an artillery tank, French artillery. So they're quite different, but I'm not really into the French tanks at all. So the artillery tanks, they rely heavily on other team members to reveal the enemy tanks to them so that they can actually get some good hits in. But when they get good hits in, they do really colossal amounts of damage. And they can often get multiple kills with a single hit. If there's a couple of small tanks grouped together, just the splash damage and the explosions from kills does a lot of damage in the surrounding area. So they're very, very powerful, but very, very niche, and they rely heavily on good teamwork to be successful. So that's the basics of the game. Additionally, with the tank destroyers, there's this camouflage kind of mechanic, which they have a huge advantage with. So hiding behind cover or in bushes, or if you're not going to tree, you hide in the leaves, the branches. You can conceal yourself, which is this interesting mechanic. They use this instead of fog of war. So if the enemy is a certain distance away, too far for you to see them, then they won't appear on your screen. They'll be absolutely invisible. If a friendly reveals an enemy and there's too great a distance between that friendly and the next friendly, then the signal range, essentially, so for this tank it's 710 meters. If the signal range is too great, if the distance between them is too great, then the signal will not get through and you still won't be able to see the enemy tanks. So that's an interesting thing. But the tank destroyers primarily stay concealed, stay stationary as well. If you move around, you will get spotted more easily. But tank destroyers, because of their low profile and just the nature of, I guess maybe quieter engine or something, it's much easier for them to stay concealed. And if they do get detected, they tend to go back into concealment again a lot faster. Additionally, I also give them camouflage nets, so reduces detection chance when the vehicle is stationary. So you got to stay stationary. If you're moving, then it will be ineffective. It won't be that effect won't be active, and as soon as you stop, it's, I think, around a 5-second delay before it then becomes active again. As you can see, it's quite heavy, 100 kilograms. In any case, it's a fantastic game. If you have not played it, give it a go. It's free to play. There's just a few micro purchases, like premium ammo, consumables, equipment, and special premium tanks that require that you purchase them with gold, which costs money, as opposed to credits, which you can earn in-game through battles and such. So try it out if you haven't already. If you do play it, maybe I could have a couple games with you guys, if you leave a comment down below. So get into it. Enjoy World of Tanks. I think Wargaming.net, the developers, have also released a couple of others, similar ones. World of Warplanes, I played the beta. Didn't really enjoy it as much because it was hard to control the planes. And I think World of Warships is coming out sometime soon, perhaps. Should be another interesting one to have a go of. I'm looking forward to that. So, get into it. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully you'll stick around for my next video.